set. Nowitzki again for the lead. Bang!
What's going on, Mavs fans? Welcome into another episode of All Things Mavs. I'm your host, Jimmy Crowther, with you as always. Today, I got a very special guest, the man that the longtime trainer of the new number one overall pick, the new face of the Dallas Mavericks, Cooper Flagg. I got Matt Mackenzie of Results Basketball here. Matt, preseason's here. Regular season's right around the corner. How you feeling?
Feeling great. Really excited for the start of the NBA season. Enjoyed my time out in the Dallas-Fort Worth area last week. Had a chance to catch the first preseason game. So really excited to watch them play again this weekend and just continue to kind of progress as we ramp up towards the opening night here coming up soon.
Yeah. How much time are you going to get to spend in Dallas when the season rolls around?
I'm spending quite a bit of time there. I'm back and forth a lot between Maine and Dallas. So I'll try to get out there at least probably 10 days a month. Nice. I anticipate being at probably half the games this year. So I stay pretty connected. That's
awesome. I love that. So You're the co-founder of Results Basketball in Maine. You were on the coaching side for a while. You moved into being a trainer, got into the player development side a lot. Obviously started working with Cooper and his twin brother Ace at some point. So talk a little bit about how you got into that player development side and then when the Flagg boys came along and you started working with them.
Yeah. So when I graduated college, I played in college here in Maine, and I graduated and I started teaching phys ed and health. And I was also coaching at a Division III school in Bangor. And as I was doing that, I really found that my passion was in the player development side of things. I didn't really love the recruiting and the compliance and all of that side of coaching as much as I did just being on the court with the players. So I really started to kind of dive into that passion of mine and work with a lot of local high school players in the area of Maine where I live. And it really just kind of took off from there. I was traveling around running clinics and camps as well and building a group of kids that really enjoyed the training style that I had to offer. And over few years, I started to kind of make it my full-time gig. I opened a small gym facility with a sports performance coach here in Bangor, Maine. And we actually outgrew that around 2021 and then built Eastern Maine Sports Academy from there. So, really just started with me diving into my passion, which was player development. Obviously, my teaching background helped me, I feel like, do a good job with that. And I continued to kind of study the game and really just learn from other people that had done it before me. And then just built a reputation of teaching the game the right way and really pouring into the players here in the area. And you asked about how Cooper and Ace got connected with me. I was working with a lot of the top high school players in Maine, and I had a couple of the former Maine Gatorade Players of the Year, Maine Mr. Basketballs, work with me. And one of them was a player that Cooper looked up to, and his name was Bryce Lozier. I played at Hamden Academy. He was Maine Mr. Basketball, Maine Gatorade Player of the Year. And I think that Kelly Flagg, who's Cooper and Ace's mom, had heard about me because I'd worked with him for so many years. I'd worked with Bryce for so many years. So they wanted to give it a try and got connected with me and asked if I had time to work with their twin boys. And they were in the 6th grade at the time, 11 or 12 years old. And ever since that first workout, we just built a really good relationship around trust and truth telling. And I think that they appreciated my approach, the way that I broke down skills, but also the way that I continued to push them no matter how good they became. And it's just been a great relationship ever since, and continues to this day.
Yeah. So before Cooper got to you, what were the things when he got there and got to you that you're like, okay, this is what you're really great at, and here's what I'm gonna continue to mold? Like, obviously he comes in, he's got some kind of background. His parents are athletes. He's, talks about watching the Boston Celtics in his car. So he knows the game really well. So what did you see? And then what did you continue to enhance when he first got to you?
So the biggest thing was just, he was so eager to learn, and he picked up on things very quickly. So you only had to tell Cooper once, and he immediately was trying to apply it into his game. He wasn't a player who would take 30 or 40 minutes just to quickly acquire a basic skill. And then the other thing is, he was constantly coming back and asking me questions. He was so hungry to get better. And it wasn't just like picking up a basic skill. It was, okay, how can I apply this immediately to my games? He wanted to know the when and the why. And so we were able to progress him very quickly at a young age. So that's the one thing that stood out to me right away, was just how quickly he was able to acquire skills and how hungry he was to get better. He was never somebody who would shy away from a challenge. He thrived off of that. Whether it was a 1-on-0 workout and I was asking him to try something new, or whether it was a situation where I was bringing in an older, bigger, stronger player to go against him in a small-sided game, he was always looking forward to those types of opportunities.
So when he was that young, I mean, obviously the kid's got so much skill, and I'm sure you're trying to navigate this transition into a positionless basketball kind of thing.
Exactly.
Where was he playing, like position wise, and what were you training him to be able to do? Obviously, all around, but like, what was the goal there, position wise?
Yeah. So really the biggest thing, and he would tell you the same, is that we worked with him on just being as versatile as possible. When he first came to me, believe it or not, he was actually not as tall as his twin brother Ace. He was tall, he was long, he had high hips, very wiry, but he wasn't as tall as his twin brother Ace. He played on the perimeter, but I really felt it was important to help him continue to be as versatile as he could possibly be, knowing that he's probably going to be a perimeter-oriented player. And because of his feel, I wanted to make sure that he would always be in situations where he can be a decision maker and a playmaker on the floor. So from the start, it was all about, working obviously fundamental skills, but then, continuing to push him outside of his comfort zone to really be able to play anywhere on the floor that he needed to play, and understand, where the other players on the floor are going to be at all times. That way he can continue to impact winning by helping them be better players as well off of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think just looking at last year at Duke, with being able to be paired up with a common Malawatch and the guys that he was paired up with, like, I think that's the most encouraging thing as a Mavs fan, where we're obviously entering this season without a Kyrie Irving. We have D'Angelo, they signed D'Angelo Russell. I think he's gonna be a great floor general, but just knowing that I think Jason Kidd can entrust him with this playmaking and decision-making skill set, like that started early and often for him. That's really encouraging.
It did. Yeah. He really learned how to play the game of basketball in its purest form from such a young age. And his parents, they were really strategic with who they had working with him. Obviously, his parents did a great job from a young age, making sure that he knew what basketball really needs to look like, and that it's a team game. And, you shouldn't be studying just these drills and players on Instagram. It's important to really watch how the ball needs to move, and to really take pride in playing good defense. And so they were strategic with who they chose to be his player development coach. They were very strategic with who they allowed to coach him in the offseason in AAU. They had this guy by the name of Andy Bedard, who's a close friend of mine, and obviously a very close friend of Cooper and the Flagg family. But within our circle, we really were so connected and so dialed in on teaching the game the right way. And I think that if you watch Cooper play now, it's very evident that he, really prided himself on the right things from a young age.
Yeah, I mean, you could even see it in summer league preseason game number 1. Obviously, I've, in retrospect, watched a lot of Duke basketball just since they drafted him number 1 overall. Not gonna say I watched every Duke game last year before I knew we would get that number 1 pick, but once that happened, I started watching more games. So Cooper, freshman year, I believe it was end of his freshman year, he goes from Maine to Montverde Academy.
Yeah.
Obviously, a little change in terms of competition and in terms of just like, I mean, you're changing basically worlds at that point, going from Maine to Florida. So how involved were you when he made that transition, and how did you prepare him for that kind of, I'm guessing, no disrespect to where he was, but step up in competition?
Yeah, it was a huge jump, but it was one that he was really ready to take. And he knew that after his first year at Nokomis High School in Maine, he needed to step into a new gym, and he needed to continue to surround himself around players who were as good or better than he was at the time. And so when the Flagg family was looking around at prep school options, Montverde Academy came across the radar, because at the time they were one of the best powerhouse prep programs in the country, and they have a very rich history of helping develop and pass along players to the NBA. And so they had a conversation with Coach Kevin Boyle. They had a chance to drive down to the Hoop Hall tournament in Springfield, Mass, and actually watch Montverde play. And just in watching the team play, Cooper and his twin brother Ace realized, if we're going to leave the state of Maine and we're going to play at another level, why not go and shoot for the stars and go play with the best? Let's challenge ourselves to be the best possible versions of ourselves that we can be. And let's go to a place that we know is going to continue to challenge us and help us get better. So, I was involved with the conversations with Cooper and the whole family on that. And I was incredibly supportive of that move, knowing that, it was going to be in Cooper's best interest and Ace's best interest to get down there and play for obviously a historic program and a really good coach who could obviously help him get to where he wanted to be. And then when he made that move down to Montverde, I continued to be very involved, and I was flying down there for about a week every month just to continue to stay connected. And it was great because the Montverde coaching staff, both Coach Boyle and his assistants, we had a wonderful relationship. It was really collaborative, and they were very welcoming of me coming down there and continuing to work with Cooper and not just Cooper, but his twin brother Ace and many of their teammates down at Montverde. I built a great relationship on and off the court with. So it was great.
That's awesome. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I know Coach Boyle also coached Ryan Nembhard, Cooper Flagg's new teammate on the Mavs, and then also D'Angelo Russell, and I think Kyrie as well.
And Kyrie, at St. Pat's School in New Jersey. Right. Yeah. So he's obviously got a pretty good track record of being able to help players get to where they want to go and make it to the NBA. So that obviously played a big part in their decision to send him down to Montverde.
So what was the thing that you saw when he made that jump from, I guess, like into freshman year, playing in Maine, jumping over, and then by the end of his sophomore year, what did you see grow the most for Cooper and for Ace at that point?
I think it was really just the speed, the pace of the game. That was an adjustment when they first moved down there. High school basketball in the state of Maine is obviously not at the level of a national prep powerhouse program.
Mm-hmm.
The tallest player on the court is maybe 6'5", 6'6". Now he's playing against guys 6'9", 6'10". Everybody, for the most part, in that EYBL Scholastic League is going to be heading off to a Division I program at some point. So, you're talking about a lot of high-level athletes, even the role players, and they play at a very fast pace. So, there was an adjustment there, but again, Cooper and Ace, they acclimated very quickly. Cooper was able to really get comfortable early on, and he was a starter for them, in his true sophomore year, and made a huge impact on winning right away. That team was very successful, and I think that Cooper really continued to grow his game over the course of that year.
So he dominates at Montverde. I mean, all throughout his career, they go on, they win the state championship, win everything that they could possibly win. He goes into Duke. I remember when he's going into his freshman year at Duke, kind of some back and forth of like, all right, well, I mean, he could be the number one player coming out of college. There's some other guys that could be in the mix. And then by the end of his freshman year, he just wipes the board clean of every award you can win, leads a very talented Duke team in every statistical category that he could possibly could lead them in. So what did you work on with him in that time at Duke, when it's obviously you got 1 year to really hone these skills in a college game? What did y'all work on the most? What changed the most? What part of his game grew the most in that one season?
So if you don't mind, I'm just going to rewind you back a little bit.
Please.
So that sophomore year that he played at Montverde, a lot of people may not remember this, but that team actually lost in the tournament of the EYBL Scholastic League. So they didn't win the national championship that year, and they lost at like a last second tip-in shot. And so having gone through that loss, it really fueled Cooper's entire summer. He was ticked off. He was hungry. He wanted to get back to that same point and really prove to the country, in high school basketball, that he could lead a team to a national championship. And so he had a hell of a summer, really just dialed in on, getting better at every single area he possibly could to help lead a national team to a championship. And so, you can look back at some of the highlights of him playing with Maine United in the EYBL, and he was just absolutely tearing that entire circuit apart. And it was really like he had a chip on his shoulder. He was playing like he had something to prove, playing like he was pissed off. And when he flips that switch, it's all over. He really improved just the versatility of his game and being able to score on all three levels that summer. I feel like he showed a lot of people that, it doesn't matter what age level he's playing at, he's going to dominate the floor. And watching him play in the summer, being able to take a group of boys from Maine and getting them to a championship game in the EYBL was just outstanding. It's something that's never been done before. And he just put those boys on his back. And I think that really said a lot about him as a leader, but how much he had grown as a player. And then he carried that with him into that next year at Montverde. And he just hit the ground running when he got back into Florida, continued to be a leader, had a really good group of players around him, and they just absolutely wiped it out. That next year they went on and won a national championship, and they were undefeated, and he just had a phenomenal year. And then obviously carried that with him to Duke. So that being said, go ahead and just kind of give me the next segment into Duke. I think you asked about what did we really work on that summer going into Duke? Was that the question?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So, I really think it was all about just preparing him for that next jump. I feel like I had been with him for the jump from middle school to high school, and then high school basketball in Maine to high school basketball at Montverde Academy. And now it was, okay, there's obviously going to be a significant jump from high school basketball at Montverde Academy to Duke, where you have expectations to come in and be able to dominate the ACC and hopefully help Duke make a run at the Final Four. So I immediately got connected with Coach Shire and his staff, and it was all about how can we help Cooper be the best for your program. And, obviously we had our own individual things that we were going to work on, continuing to help him be more comfortable shooting from the perimeter. That was a big thing that we really worked on. We actually adjusted some things with his shot that summer going into his freshman year at Duke, moving his platform a little bit, changed his set point, smoothed some things out a little bit, and really focused in on his balance. And I think that was really evident in watching him shoot the ball, especially the last 20 to 25 games of that Duke season. It was just kind of a work in progress that summer and fall. He really started to shoot the ball really well. And that was something that we spent a lot of time on. But, again, just understanding some of the different actions that he was going to be involved in at Duke and making sure that he could dominate within those actions. I think that was really important. Studying some of his teammates that he was going to be playing with and how he can best help them be in positions to score the ball. I really think that was the biggest thing, is just understanding the adjustment and what the expectations were going to be for him going into a program that already has had some success. Well, how can we continue to get them to where they want to go? And then also continue to put you in the best position to be the number one overall pick a year from that point.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to what you're saying about that chip on his shoulder after losing a game. I mean, as a Mavs fan, that really resonates because we think back to 2006, Dirk Nowitzki loses to the Miami Heat. We go up 2-0. He gets bounced, and he came back like a man possessed the next year. Goes on, wins the MVP that next year. I mean, obviously they got bounced out early, but then 2011 he gets his lick back against the Heat. So thinking about Flagg having that same kind of mentality is just so encouraging and so exciting coming into this Dallas franchise that values something like that and that kind of mindset.
That's the biggest thing for him. It's at the end of the day, he wants to win at all costs, and he's going to do whatever he possibly can do to help the team that he's playing for win. And, if on any given night, he needs to go and get 15 rebounds, or he needs to get 10 assists or 6 block shots, he's going to go out there and he's going to bust his ass to do it. I think that's really the biggest thing that NBA teams loved about him going into the draft, was just that he can really do so much, and he's going to impact winning at a very high level. He's not just somebody who can score the ball. He can help other players around him be better. And I think that Mavs fans and obviously the organization, they're going to love him for that.
Yeah. So You watch him at his freshman year at Duke. Obviously, like I said, just wipes the floor clean of every award you can win. Very successful season. Obviously, didn't get all the way through like they wanted to, but just an insanely successful season. Insanely successful season? That's a tongue twister. What would you say is like, obviously we know all the great things about Cooper Flagg and we've seen it and it's been incredible. What would you say that next skill for him to hone in on would be for him to take that step as the number one player on a winning championship team in the NBA? What is that? And what are y'all like, what have y'all been talking about in that sense?
Yeah, really continuing to build his comfort level in attacking different spots on the floor, late clock situations, end of shot clock, end of quarter. If he gets the ball in his hands, being able to really have comfort attacking certain spots, whether he's in the mid post, isolated, or he catches the ball in the wing, coming off a ball screen, just really understanding where he wants to get to and then making sure he gets there. So we've been working a lot on different driving angles, getting on balance from different spots on the floor and being able to rise up and knock down shots. So those are some of the things that we've talked about. But again, he's such a smart player, and so he picks up on things so quickly. So we've had a chance to dive into some film study on certain players that, he has enjoyed watching in the past. And, I think that's helped him. He really is somebody who's a visual learner. And so we've spent some time doing that this summer, but I think that's the biggest thing. If you watch Cooper play, again, we've talked about his playmaking ability and how he's able to make other players on the floor better. But when it comes down to it, if he's got the ball in his hands, we just want to make sure that he's always confident and ready to go to attack a spot and make a play to score if need be.
Can I ask who are some of those players that you guys are watching that he enjoys watching?
Yeah, honestly, a mix of a lot of different players. We've studied Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's driving angles. We've worked a lot of the footwork and balance that Kevin Durant puts into his game. Jason Tatum is somebody who he's studied a lot of. There's other players certainly where we've picked out little things. We actually spoke about Lauri Markkanen and how balanced he is when he finishes his threes, just how he comes down on 2 feet really well. So it doesn't always have to be like, a superstar player in the league necessarily for us to look at just little minute details of what they do well. And how he can possibly, put it into his game. But he's a student of the game. And I think that's what you could take from it, is that he wants to be better, and he's going to continue to do whatever it takes to get to where he wants to go. As good as he is right now at 18 years old, he wants to make sure that when he's 24, people can look back and say, man, I can't believe how much he's improved over the first 5-6 years of his career.
God, it's just so crazy to think about, 10 years from now, this guy's going to be entering technically his physical prime. We're going to be right at the tail end, I guess, of his physical prime. And I mean, I'm sure for you, watching from 6th grade to like all of a sudden 18, he's already improved so much. To think about where he can go next, that's got to be just almost hard to even think about.
Yeah, it is. But, the thing is, we need to make sure that we keep our foot on the gas pedal. And, part of my job is continuing to help him stay challenged and continue to find little parts of his game that he can continue to improve. He's blessed to have a great coaching staff in Dallas and some really good vets around him, which I think will be very valuable. Guys like AD, Kyrie, Clay, who have had so much success in the league and have had Hall of Fame careers. For them to be in his corner, I think is just amazing. And so I know that he has already spent some time with those guys, and they're really, really good with him and sharing some of the things that have helped them along the early parts of their career. So I just really look forward to, him continuing to be able to pick their brains, learn from his coaching staff. And obviously I'll continue to be in his corner throughout this whole process as well. It's going to be a team effort, but I know that he's going to continue to really improve year after year after year.
Yeah. So speaking of Dallas, lottery night rolls around. Mavs are sitting at 1.8% chance. We're getting ready to draft. In my head, I think we're going to go get like Jokic Kaspachunas or something. Like, I don't know who we were going to get at that point or what pick we were going to land at. I did not think it was going to be the number 1 pick. I'm sure nobody in Cooper Flagg in your camp thought it was going to be the number 1 pick. Lottery night rolls around. How shocked are you? I mean, you're walking away saying Dallas? Like, what was that like? Where was everyone's mind at that point? Obviously, you don't know for sure he's going to go number 1. but you got a good feeling at that point.
We were shocked, but we were so excited.
Yeah.
We were told as we walked into the lottery show to make sure that we didn't really show a ton of emotion, even as teams went off the board, because they knew that the cameras were going to be on us, and we didn't want to act like we were excited because a team went off the board or because we were disappointed because a team that he was hoping to go to all of a sudden, got the 4th pick or the 5th pick. So we were really trying to stay pretty neutral. And honestly, going into the lottery show, Dallas wasn't even a team that we brought up as a possible destination just because they had that 1.8% chance. So we were talking about other cities. But when obviously Dallas got called as the number 1 pick, we just kind of were side-eyeing each other and smirking. And then I remember leaving the lottery show and going back to Cooper's room to just debrief it. And we were just so excited just because we knew that this was going to be the perfect situation for him. Obviously a great city, great state, excellent fan base, very well-respected head coach and coaching staff, and then players that are ready to win now. And I think that's the biggest thing for Cooper. He wants to be in a situation where he can win. And I think that would have been really challenging for him to be in a situation where they were in full rebuild mode and they were still 3 or 4 years away from being a playoff contender. To be able to get drafted into a situation where they're very deep at every position and they have guys around Cooper that are ready to win now and they're championship driven, it's just the perfect situation for him and who he is as a player.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the situation, I think a lot of people, they're going to say what they're going to say about in all reality, he's not getting 25 shots a game. Like, I don't think he expects that. I don't think anybody is asking him to take that many shots. And a lot of people are like, well, he needs all those shots to develop. But how do you see it as an advantage to where it's like, hey, he doesn't have to go get you 25 a night. Like he can ease into this window and, yes, early on, he's gonna have a little more responsibility. I think we expect with Kyrie being out, but then when Kyrie comes back, when he's supposed to hit that quote unquote rookie wall that everybody says he's going to hit, like that's the time where he's going to be able to, watch Kyrie kind of meld into the mix. So how do you think that helps his game and helps his development beyond just his rookie year?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, he gets the opportunity to develop at the right pace. He gets to come in and, I'm not saying that he won't have big time games. I think that he's certainly going to have those games, but I think that, there might be nights where he's relied upon to do other things, and that's okay. He might be able to go out and get you 10, 11 rebounds or 5 or 6 assists, and maybe he doesn't have 25 that night, or he doesn't have 20 even that night. It's okay because he's impacted winning. And I think that him being able to be around those vets, like I mentioned before, that can help continue to guide him and give him feedback on how he can help that team continue to grow is just going to be so valuable. But it really goes back to just him being able to develop as a rookie at the right pace and not have all of the weight on his shoulders to be able to lead the entire organization. He can be a part of a really, really good collective group. And I think that's something that is just going to be so beneficial to him this year and next year and probably the year after that, just with the core group that they have around here. And I know that's something that he's really looking forward to.
So offensively, we know what he is. Defensively, I mean, everybody always talks about defense is where, he could get paid ultimately. Like his defense is insanely special. So how do you see him at this next level guarding the smaller guards all the way up to the bigger bigs in the NBA? How do you see him translating into that?
Yeah, defensively, he's an absolute menace. He takes a lot of pride in playing on that end, and I think that's what really it comes down to is he enjoys getting a defensive stop. Obviously, we all have seen highlights of him blocking shots, but if you go beyond the block shots, you'll also notice that he very rarely misses a rotation. He's usually in really good position on switches. He's constantly getting his hand in the passing lane. And then he's able to really pressure the ball well. So I think that his defensive versatility and ability to guard so many positions allows his team to be able to use him in so many different ways. If he gets switched on to a small, he's going to be able to stay in front most likely. If he gets switched on to a big, he's smart and long enough to be able to be a pest. So I think that defensive versatility is going to be able to provide the Mavs with some interesting lineups this year, and I'm excited to see what those might be.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it, preseason game, the first play out of the gate, Dereck Lively gets pulled out on the perimeter, and then Anthony Davis is kind of caught in the mid-range defending his guy, and Cason Wallace thinks he has a wide open layup, or maybe it was Isaiah Joe, I can't remember. One of the two has a wide open layup, and Cooper Flagg's, of course, the guy roaming and comes and swats the shot off the backboard. Like that defense, to me, that's unfathomable to have to plan against. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So speaking of the Mavs, speaking of that, what are your personal expectations for Cooper, but also for this Mavs team as a whole?
Yeah. I think that for Cooper, he wants to make sure that he puts team success before individual accolades. And in his mind, and in my mind as well, if he helps this team get to where they want to go or where they should go, then the individual accolades are going to work themselves out. But, I'd be remiss to say that he obviously doesn't have his eyes on Rookie of the Year. He certainly wants to be Rookie of the Year. And he wants to make sure that he's part of a Mavs team that can make a very deep playoff run and hopefully vie for a championship. I think that the way the roster is constructed, as long as they all stay healthy, they should 100% be in contention if they continue to gel and play together. And so I'm just so excited to see how they continue to, just play together and different lineups that they put out on the floor. And, as they get into the regular season here, how things look. I'm so excited. I know Cooper is very ready to go.
Yeah, we're all itching to watch him. So I guess on that, one more note on that health point that you just brought up. He's been a pretty healthy guy throughout his career. He had the quick ankle turn at Duke that scared a lot of people. Other than that, he seems like he's really taking care of his body all throughout his career. What are some things that you guys have kind of fine-tuned in that aspect?
I think the biggest thing is just, treating his body like a professional from a young age. He's done a really good job understanding that recovery is important. Injury prevention strategies. So he's working a lot on hot yoga. He does a lot of stretching. He's in the weight room building up his body so that he can endure, an 82 plus playoff game season. He's really enjoyed being in the gym with the Mavs new strength coaches. I think that he's really transformed his body nicely this summer, and he's put on some lean muscle mass, which I'm really impressed with. So, just little things like that, making sure that he's eating a really good, well-balanced diet, making sure that he's getting a good amount of sleep. He just takes pride in being a pro. And so I think that because he's been able to develop some of those strategies so young, that's hopefully, knock on wood, going to help him have a very healthy, long career ahead of him.
Yeah. For sure. Well, we're excited to watch it. We're excited to be a part of it. Before I let you go, any players in Maine that you want to plug that we need to be keeping our eyes on up and coming?
So, because of Cooper's success, he's been able to be a role model for so many younger players coming through the Maine pipeline. And a lot of these players coming up through have studied his game and they watch how he plays, and they've been a fan of his at Montverde and at Duke. And Cooper's done a really good job being an advocate for Maine basketball, almost like an ambassador for Maine basketball. And every time he comes back to the state, he's in the gym and he's talking to the young guys. And I'll bring in some of the high school players to watch him work out and help rebound and what have you. So, with that said, there's a really talented group of high school players that we have put together called Team Maine. They're going to play in the Made Hoop circuit this spring, and they have a few players that I know are really talented, and I think that they're probably going to be in line for some Division I scholarships down the line. Ollie Higgins is a name that I could throw out there. Lincoln Malcor, Carter Brathwaite, Kaylon Watkins. There's a bunch of guys right now that are coming out of the state of Maine here in the next couple of years. And I think that Cooper is to blame, or Cooper can be looked at as a big reason why these guys are as good as they are, because he gives these kids from Maine a sense of belief, that it doesn't matter where you come from, how small the town, he was able to do it from Newport, Maine. Yeah. He's the #1 overall pick in the NBA. Now, state of Maine, I know that we talk about the history and how maybe Duncan Robinson's a Mainer. Duncan Robinson's not a Mainer. He was born in a Maine hospital. He's from New Hampshire, so we can't even really claim him. There might have been one or two others that were born in Maine, but Cooper Flagg is the first true Maine player to make it to the NBA. And the fact that he was the number 1 overall pick is just amazing. And for him to be able to come back to this state and tell his story and to be able to be an ambassador for the game here, it's just gone a long way already. In every gym that you walk into in Maine, you see kids wearing New Balance shoes now. You see kids wearing In Flag We Trust. In Maine, the team that we've always rooted for in the past are the Boston Celtics. But now you're seeing just as many Dallas Mavericks shirts as you are Celtics shirts, which is incredible. And the season hasn't even started yet, So, obviously Texas is going to be the number 1 state for Mavericks fans, but Maine is going to be a close second. I can promise you that.
Man, that's so awesome. I love that. And I know Mavs fans love that. We've got, again, going back to the history of the Mavs, you look at like Wurzburg, Germany. Like people tell me I get DMs all the time. People are like German fans asking me what time the game's going to be on in Germany. We still have a large following of Slovenian fans. Like that was like a country that kind of adopted the Mavs. And now we keep it in the United States and we go to a whole new state and just get to take it over in a way. I mean, that's so awesome. And I love that. I love that small town aspect and small town feel. And I know it probably gives him an extra little chip on his shoulder. So we're excited to have him. We're excited to, we're excited to have you be, in and around the Mavs. I'm sure we'll see you at some games this coming year. So anything else you want to plug? Any social media sites, anything else you want to plug before we get out of here?
You can follow my business at Results Basketball on Instagram or Facebook. I'm usually traveling around with Cooper, so I'll be posting some stuff from my time on the road as well. But I'm just looking forward to being in Dallas and continuing to support the Mavs organization. Everybody in Dallas has been great so far, and I'm looking forward to an outstanding season.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Matt, appreciate you jumping on. You guys make sure you subscribe, like this video, hit us up in the comments, and we'll see you next time.